In the back of the beyond, from one of a storm to another, a cavernous unknown for the sea to survive always said.
Welcome, Imogen, to Finland. It's lovely to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
You're here to talk about Mycelia. Let's start at the beginning. How was Mycelia born?
Mycelia was born out of frustration, actually. Just having given birth to my one and only child and facing the release of a new song and all of the difficulties around the admin of where that data goes, what do you do with it, how do you ever know if it's actually going to be, finding you to pay you money at the end of the day, getting numbers from people to make sure they're credited correctly and paid correctly. And then the thought of marketing, just how do you shout above the noise, even for me, with some success as a music maker, it's really hard to get discovered, for that song to be discovered. There's 2 songs uploaded every second of every day. So that's a lot of music, a lot of noise. So it really came out of that, and I realised there was a technology and there was a drive from not just myself but other musicians to look to change things.
You call Mycelia an ecosystem.
Yes, so Mycelia is really a vision. I gave a vision the name because I was doing an interview about a month into having discovered blockchain technology, and the interviewer wanted to know what was I going to do with blockchain in music. And what you could do with blockchain and music at the time was basically nothing. But it was all about the imagination of what could happen if we integrated linked data and hashing, into the blockchain, into blockchains, connecting private and public data, a shared system, verified information, linking to identities, all kinds of possibilities, basically just integration, integrating the very fragmented music industry together to make sense. So this idea of Mycelia came about, and as I'm looking at my necklace, because Mycelia is the mycelium is the largest organism that lives beneath our feet in the world. They're tens of kilometres big, and they connect trees and mushrooms together in the forest floor, and they basically generate this ecosystem. It's a healthy ecosystem in the forest. So I thought this is a beautiful metaphor for what the music industry could be if we could get the ground layer, if we could get the bit that nobody sees right, if we could get the songs empowered with all the data that they need to do the business that they need, and to be able to link back to the originator, the music maker, who puts in all the risk in the beginning and creates that content. Above that layer are the enablers, the services, and then above that, are the fans, who kind of the curators between, the enablers between, to help you discover that music, whether it's a music service or in a TV show or on the radio. So it's that ground layer that is very, very messy. The music industry has no way of integrating in a standardized way with individual music makers. We don't have a place, we don't belong anywhere. We have an identity within a label or within a collection society or on social media, but we don't have a data body for our music self, our music business. And this is where this idea of what we call the creative passport comes into play, is that this is our point, our beacon of truth, our hub and identity around our musical self.
How do the music makers get paid? How do they get their money?
It can be anywhere from immediate to 2 to 3 years, depending on what systems you interface with. But more and more musicians are independently self-releasing and less connected to the existing licensed big record labels, which are very often quite opaque by manner of how their systems are built and how they interface with us, which is usually via email or huge spreadsheets which we can't look through. So in one sense it's very slow around the song, fan kind of interaction, listening to the song. But when it comes to doing a gig, for example, then that's quick. It's like you do the show, you get paid. Or you get money in advance from a promoter to come to pay for some of your expenses, and then you get paid on the top if you sell out or whatever. Other places might be kind of further removed from the song, but more around the self. So you might get a commission from an organisation. So I'm doing a commission for IBM at the moment. I have done a commission for Sennheiser or Intel or lots of different, often tech companies because they know that I'm interested in technology. So that's how I get discovered to get these other income, which are always more than what comes from the streaming or kind of more traditional methods of income where it involves a whole industry collection of people. And it's actually funny because most of the income from music makers comes from these kind of unique individual incomes, and there's many different revenue streams. It could be live, it could be merchandise, it could be streaming, it could be a commission, it could be getting into sync and film and TV, it could be getting on the radio. But there's no innovation around that side of the music maker. There's innovation around the service, around the music, but not around the music maker. And that's where most of the income for me comes. And I'm lucky in that I've had a career in music and I've had enough press over the years for people to know, oh, she's a mother, you know, or she's a tech, she's interested in tech, or she has her own studio, so she will be able to put this song together in a certain amount of time. So because I have those tags that are kind of connected to myself, I attract business so that I can sustain my music career. If it was just relying on, you know, Spotify streams or any kind of streams or radio, I wouldn't be here today. So that's why this idea of how do we galvanise musicians to get behind the idea of bringing themselves out and putting their data up there so that we can become open for business and we can attract work outside of what the music industry has innovated around, which is the song. How can we create innovation around us, around our individual selves, around our unique talents that is going to generate us money? It's everybody wants music for something, but they don't know that we're there.
2 to 3 years doesn't sound too fair. How do people survive?
Well, musicians are, you know, they do lots of things. They do lots of things to make ends meet. It does take sometimes 2 to 3 years to receive money. The thing though about that is along the way lots of people have taken cuts and lots of data has got lost. So often you don't know where that money comes from, or you can't see any granular data to know maybe what radio stations are supporting you. And even if you did, it would be, you know, 3 years too late. But wouldn't it be amazing for the song to be notified when it's being used and played, even if it wasn't about payment, but if a radio station could go, oh, we're now playing this song, and the song notifies everyone involved in that song at that time in the world that that thing is happening right now, to notify the music maker. So potentially there could be a service called Thank the DJ, that I would be able to be notified that my song's played on that radio station in Japan, and I could call them up. And they would love that because they'd be like, Imogen Heap just phoned the radio station. I'd be like, hey, thanks so much for playing my song. Would you like to know what it's about? Let me tell you about this time I came to Japan, blah, blah, blah. So to be able to connect spontaneously in the moment to songs and people, to be able to create a conversation and be present is something that is not too far away.
If I ask you, how do the words fair data economy resonate with you? What would your answer be? Fair data economy, what could that mean?
I feel it needs human decision and awareness. If you're not aware and in the party, you can't partake fairly. You need to be in the know. Needs to be transparent. But there's a level of transparency where it becomes so transparent. Here's all of your options. You know, here's a 25-page list of do you consent to this, where it becomes not transparent anymore. Becomes works against human scale of what you can ingest. So I think, a fair data economy, it has to work at a human scale. And it's about empowering our data cells, our technology, a kind of accompaniments, are kind of like data self-managers to train ourselves, our data selves, of how we are prepared to interface with this data economy. Because we're talking about data, it's not human. It's we can live on a human scale, data can live 24/7, you know, and talk to trillions of APIs if it needs to, but we can't do that. So we need to develop systems whereby we can train a kind of AI data self to work on our in our best interests by what we stand for, what we would stand for in the physical world, what do we stand for in the data space too. Yes, but we need help, we need to create these systems.
If there were a fair data label, you know there's fair trade label for bananas and coffee and cotton, but if there were a fair data label, would Mycelia get one?
Well, the Creative Passport hopes to create trust in the industry. So by accepting the interface between services, they have to agree to standards. But ultimately, it's the individual who decides. It's the individual who decides whether they want public or private and where do they want that data sent. So it becomes like this patch bay of preferences. I would like this data to be sent to Facebook, and if there's a monetizable option, or it doesn't agree to your data self preferences, then you become aware of that. So I think actually you become the stamp. The individual becomes the stamp, because what or the board of whoever might in the future become, that's kind of arbitrary. It's too complicated. Everybody has very individual needs, so we need to take that into our own hands.
One last question: is a fair data economy achievable? Is the Mycelia vision achievable?
I do believe it's achievable, because people need good data, and it's not in our benefit or in our interest to have bad data in any way. It's in no interest of somebody who's giving something good to the system to have bad data. The only people who want bad data is if they're benefiting from it. So that's this kind of friction area of something taking too long or not being discovered. So I do believe that, much like nature, the right way will emerge and will come and will work. I do believe in if we can create a kind of almost like an organism by us being all connected and human, that we can create that space.